This podcast may contain disturbing content for some listeners. It's intended for mature audiences. Listener discretion is advised. This is True Crime XS.
Did you find any such inconsistencies in this case?
Yes, I did.
Okay, and what were those?
When I reviewed the reports of the 5 officers that were at the scene, I noticed I became very suspicious because all 5 reports...
Excuse me, I'll object to this personal.
So why didn't you go and interview them for a follow-up?
Because all 5 reports omitted the same information, which was vital to the case.
So why not go ahead and ask about those omissions?
I felt since they all 5 eliminated the same information that they needed to stand on the integrity of those reports themselves.
And you did not hear him crying from 10 feet away or less feet away? No.
Well, I'm not saying I didn't hear. I just didn't remember it or gather it as my strongest perception.
Oh, meaning that's why it's not in your report?
Yes.
You testified yesterday that you did not remember Daniel Shaver crying that night. Is that correct?
At the moment, I didn't really pay attention to that. I was more focused on Sam's.
And the plaintiffs are very...
Stop it, because that doesn't tell you why the person who's crawling on the floor poses a threat such that the Constitution allows an officer to shoot and kill him. If that person isn't carrying a rifle, that person doesn't really pose a threat, does he?
So as alleged, they...
Answer that question.
But,
how did Mr. Shaver pose a threat?
well, he could have had a concealed weapon on him.
But no effort was made to find out whether he had a concealed weapon, and he sure didn't have a rifle, given how he was dressed.
And you want to bring it to a successful conclusion, and you want to go in there and doing your best to de-escalate the situation.
Okay. And so are the officers taught that during the trainings, that the objective is usually to de-escalate a situation?
You get that from the academy to the day you retire through continuing education. De-escalation is the mantra of dealing with these types of situations. You're going in there, you go into, when you get calls, you go, law enforcement, they go into problems. And as you go into problems, you want to try to calm the problem down if you can. And you're given tools to deal with the situation. You're given training. You're taught to use verbalization, command presence, and all of that in order to control the situation.
Monique, I'm going to record this. My name's Detective Sipe. Okay. Nice to meet you. So I need to ask you a couple of questions.
Okay.
You're not under arrest or anything like that.
I understand.
All right.
I'm pretty scared because I've seen everything that happened.
Okay. Were you handcuffed or anything?
I was.
Okay. So tell me what happened tonight. Do you know the guy that was
I
in
don't know
502?
the guy personally. It was just like we're all in here for a training, which was me and Luis and some other people. That it was like 9 of us in a group that was in a training today with Paul at Dollar General on Apache Junction.
Okay.
And then we came back to our room like later on tonight. As soon as we were going up to the elevator, we met this guy named Daniel. He said his name was Daniel, the guy that got shot.
Uh-huh.
And he's like, hey, come and have a shot with us. Like,
And who did he invite to go to his room?
me and Luis.
You and Luis?
Yeah.
Was it just you and Luis in the elevator?
No, it was some other lady from Pine Top, but she got off on the 3rd floor.
Okay,
And
so
then
she
we
got off
went-
on the 3rd floor, and
Yeah,
then you
and then
went...
me and Luis, we were stationed on the 5th floor, and he was also stationed on the 5th floor. So he was more closer to the elevator than we were, because
Right.
my room was 510 and Luis's room was 512.
Uh-huh.
So we got off with Daniel, and we went in his room, and we were talking. he had like a big, it looked like it, because I used to play orchestra for 4 years, so it looked like a big instrument suitcase.
Uh-huh.
Inside the instrument suitcase was a gun and a dead sparrow, but he told me that it was a rabbit that was in there, just in case it smelled.
Is this a real sparrow?
Yeah, it was. And I looked at it like biblical because I'm Catholic, but I converted into Christian because my husband is Christian. So I was just like, that's not right. Like, why would you kill a sparrow? And so I just went with it, whatever, guys are guys. I just thought it was a part of hunting, whatever. And
did you know it's a sparrow, or did he say it was a sparrow?
He said it was a sparrow. It was a bird. Yeah, it was a dead bird inside. And so and then he started going on about that he was on a business trip with Walmart, and he was supposed to kill all the birds in Walmart that flew in there with his gun. And so me and Luis were just like, okay, like, we didn't know. And Luis left me up there because I don't know anything about guns, like, I'm clueless or whatever about guns or whatever. I knew it wasn't right, but I stayed in there with Luis because Luis was there, so I felt comfortable. And he was like, oh, I'll be right back. I just need to call my wife. And I was like, okay. So I really thought he was going to come back, and he never came back.
How long was he gone?
He kept coming in and out.
Luis did?
Yeah, and he even held the gun. Like, I was just like, that's not right. Like, you shouldn't put your...
What were they doing with the gun?
They were just, like, looking at it. Like, he was putting... Like, I don't know if... Back in the 80s, like how they had that, the Pictionary thing where, like, you can change the settings on... Yeah. It was, like, they were doing that on the gun. Like, they were just looking at the gun and, like... And I was like, don't point that at the window. Like, I even touched the gun and I said, don't point that at the window. And I got the curtain and I even, like, moved it because I thought about it after a while. And I was
were they
like,
pointing at the... Did you see them?
Yeah, they were pointing at the window. And I was just like, don't point at the window. And then, like, I even moved it because I was scared, like, they were going to hurt somebody because everybody was under the influence of alcohol. Because we all took a shot. So I just thought, like...
Was anybody intoxicated, do you think? Or did everybody just have one shot? Or?
No, that guy that you guys shot tonight that is dead, he was intoxicated because he had a big gallon of Bacardi in his hand. Well, like, even when we met him at his door, he was like, you guys want to take a shot? And me and Luis were like, yeah, like, because we were on a business trip and we were going to our room, and we were like, yeah. And so... he invited us into his room, but I didn't take a shot right there. We were just standing there, like, look, I even looked at my surroundings because I have 6 kids, and I was just like, always look at your surroundings. So I knew it wasn't right, and I just sat right there for a while. But then when I saw them, like, looking at the window and, actually pointing it at the window, I was just like, that's not right. Like, I even pushed it away, but I got the curtain.
Was the window open or closed?
It was open, but it only opens to a certain extent because it
so the glass pane was open, or just
the glass pane was open and the screen was right there where you can feel the wind coming through. But they were still pointing it, and I guess Luis thought about it. He's like, I don't know. He's like, my wife's calling me. I'm gonna call you, or I'm gonna come right back. And so I sat right there for a while.
911 emergency.
Hi, I'm with the La Quinta at 6530 East Superstition Springs Boulevard. And a couple of the guests have come to me. I'm an employee here. They come to me and they told me that somebody's pointing a rifle outside of one of the windows in our building.
Okay, and this is the 6530 East Superstition Springs Boulevard in Mesa?
Yes, it is.
Do we know what he's pointing it at? Do we know what he's pointing the gun at?
We're not sure. They're saying 4th floor.
Okay, one moment here.
That blue one right there?
Yeah, that's what I thought.
5th floor. That's going to be 502. All right, yeah, I have the room number.
Okay, is anybody injured at this time?
Nobody's injured at the moment, no. We've got some scared people, but...
Okay. What room number?
We believe 502, but... Yeah, that's the room that he's saying.
Okay. Have you seen the person that's staying in that room? Have you seen the person that's staying in that room?
Yeah, I'm going to double check the map right now to make sure that that's absolutely the room that we're thinking about. But I can get you their name right now.
Okay, and what is their name?
Hey, where's the map? Where's the map of the... You keep showing it to people to show them where to park. Yeah.
Okay, so what is his name?
I have to double check and make sure, because, you know. Yeah. That's definitely 502. Okay, his name. Let me sign in to my computer right now. Yeah, Daniel Shaver. His name's spelled like it sounds.
S-H-A-V-E-R?
Yeah.
Do we have a date of birth for him?
No.
Have you seen him at all? Have you seen him at all?
Yeah, I've seen him today.
Is he black, white, Hispanic, or native?
He's white. He's a white male, ginger hair.
Okay, hold on one second, officer. Hold on one second. Officers are asking me to confirm where 502 is on, or is in that building. Is it on the north or south side of the building?
It's on the south end of the building, closest to the east side of it.
Okay. Okay, and you said he's a white male. About how old did you say he is?
I'd put him in his late 20s and early 30s.
Okay, what color shirt and pants? I'm sorry, you said you saw him earlier today, correct?
Yes, I did.
And what color shirt and pants was he wearing? Do you remember?
He was wearing a black Tool shirt, like the band.
Uh-huh.
Tool.
And what color pants?
Blue jeans.
About how tall would you say he is?
I'd call him about 5'8".
And his weight approximately?
130, 140 pounds, maybe.
And you said he had red hair?
Reddish.
Reddish hair. Any glasses, jewelry, tattoos, facial hair, anything like that for him?
No.
Okay.
Not that I'm aware of.
Does he have a vehicle registered?
Yeah, I don't know if it's registered, but I can find it in the parking lot.
Okay, you know what type of vehicle it is?
I'll recognize it if I see it. I'm headed there right now.
Okay. Only if it's safe for you to do so.
Yeah, it's on the north side of the building, so I think I'm all right.
All right, that'll work.
Clear.
I'm just going to replace that young man with...
My name is Charles J. Langley.
You were previously employed by whom?
I was previously employed by the Mesa Police Department.
But you have since retired?
Yes, I have.
Okay.
Well, I was a law enforcement officer for, I believe, approximately 28 years. I was first sworn in as a federal officer, I believe it was around 1989. I served on the border in the Southwest Division. Specifically, my duty station was Nogales, Arizona. I served there from 1989 until 1994. I had a variety of assignments there. Mostly I dealt with smuggling, dealt with narcotics interdiction, human smuggling interdiction, weapons smuggling, and stolen property and money being smuggled southbound. I did prostitution detail where they were smuggling women north in order to be utilized as prostitutes. I served on a warrant detail where my duty was to identify and apprehend fugitives who are attempting to re-enter the United States or go southbound into Mexico. Did an extensive detail where I was assigned a steroid interdiction. For a short period of time, I was assigned into Tucson International Airport on a temporary detail where I was assigned to interdict money being transported into the United States through the airlines. This is a brief rundown. My training there was I originally attended the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center in Glencoe, Georgia. And then I, of course, received service training, while I was a federal officer during the period of my service. In 1994, I transitioned to the Mesa Police Department. Served in the Mesa Police Department from 1994 until this year, and until the 21st of last month.
On January 18th of 2016, did you receive a call from the La Quinta Inn?
Yes, I did. I was assigned as a patrol sergeant. The emergency traffic call came out of an individual with a rifle, pointing the rifle out of a fifth-floor hotel room at the La Quinta Inn.
What did you do in response to that call, sir?
Responded there, lights and siren. When I arrived, Officer Gomez was there, and there was also an adult female that was outside that identified herself to me as being a manager, I believe. She stated to me that two of her guests and an employee had stated that there was a subject with a rifle in room 502, as I recall, and that the two guests stated he had been pointing the rifle out the window. They were by the pool area, which was just on the south side of the building.
And what did you do next in response to that information?
Well, I realized at that point I had a hotel very much occupied by civilians, both by staff and by guests. I also had traffic on a very busy thoroughfare, which was Superstition Springs, that was on the south side of that building. And I had a parking lot, which had traffic in it, and I had restaurants that were also in that area, too, that were going to be occupied by civilians. At that time, I decided to form an immediate action team and organize that and respond to the fifth floor of the La Quinta.
What type of threat did you perceive this to be? What level?
Well, this is 2016 in the United States. We have had a variety of active shooters. We've also had the people that have gone into public places, as we all know, and have engaged civilians as targets. So I was concerned not only with people in the exterior of the building, because I could possibly had somebody armed with a long gun on the fifth floor, which would be a perfect vantage point in order to shoot innocent people below the building and in the parking lot area and traffic going by. But I also realized that if they did exit the room that they're supposedly in, then they had a variety of targets. They're potentially in the occupied hotel rooms and, of course, people in the hallway, people throughout the 5 floors of La Quinta, including staff.
What did you do then?
From the immediate action team, with the officers that were there and were available, had a brief conversation with the manager to identify that, yes, we had a weapon involved. It was on the 5th floor of La Quinta, identified the room. 3 civilian witnesses at that point is what I was told we had.
That's probably a better idea.
He was a good intermediate, was what we had, but now we get on.
He's on the back side.
Yeah, he came and popped up that window. Did you do Harrison go back there? There's a young man standing in there.
How many mags have you got on you?
The elevator.
Can I steal one just to throw in my back pocket?
Could you secure that elevator to prevent it from going up and down? I don't want you to go up to the 5th floor in the elevator. Exactly, because that elevator door opens right in front of you. Okay, got it? Okay. We're going to go up. We're going to secure the initial once we hit it. Open this up. We're going to take the 2 sides of it. Okay, and then we're going to go down, and depending on what it looks like, I may drop people off and toast them as we go. Okay?
Using the doorways for cover?
Right. The problem we're going to have is we potentially we could have
Come on in.
Thank you very much.
Welcome to a special summer bonus episode of True Crime XS. If you've been watching our social media feeds, then you can probably tell that we've been getting into some shit in our ongoing search for victims of the serial killer Israel Keys, or at least their remains. And I'm going to talk about that just a little bit here today, but I'm bringing you something different. What you heard at the top of the show is the first 20 minutes of a documentary that I'm going to put in the show notes and that you should check out. And I'm not affiliated with that documentary in any way, shape, or form, except to tell you a little bit about that case.
From the Phoenix New-Times on October 17, 2019, Mesa cop calls people idiots for bringing up Daniel Shaver's shooting on Facebook, by Meg O'Connor. On Saturday, the Mesa Police Department shared a post on Facebook encouraging people to apply to the Mesa Police Academy. The commenters aren't ready to let the department forget what happened to Daniel Shaver, who was killed by a Mesa officer 3 years ago. On the post, calling for recruits, one person asked in the comments whether making innocent civilians crawl down a hotel hallway was something that was taught at the academy. In January 2016, Mesa police officer Philip Brailsford shot and killed the 26-year-old Daniel Shaver after barking conflicting commands at the terrified man in a hotel hallway for several minutes. Bodycam footage later released of the Texas visitor begging for his life before he was shot went viral. But some thin-skinned officers are more than ready to forget what happened. After another Facebook commenter chimed in, a Mesa cop used her personal account to call commenters idiots on the department's Facebook page. Someone said the original commenter seems to have a 100% problem with police, and that most cops aren't bad. That's when Carrie Flanagan, a 20-year veteran with the Mesa Police Department, published a comment saying that the second comment just makes too much sense for some of these idiots that post and have nothing else to complain about. The Mesa Police Department itself briefly liked Flanagan's comment, calling people bringing up Shaver's shooting idiots, but Flanagan's comment has since been deleted. A Twitter account dedicated to calling out instances of alleged police misconduct, Mesa Police Accountability, took a screenshot of the post. Asked why the Mesa Police Department liked the post, Detective Nick Rachetta, a department spokesperson, told Phoenix New-Times it was an accident. Basically, our social media is kind of overviewed by a few different individuals, including PIOs, public information officers, and backup PIOs, Rachetta said. All of us have a personal Facebook account linked so we can be an administrator for the Mesa Police Department. We toggle back and forth between those. This particular PIO was scrolling through and liking things to make sure that there was some interaction on the post. He saw Carrie's name, recognized her, and inadvertently clicked like when he saw just the good part at the end of the post. The PIO did later unlike the post, Rachetta said. The shooting of Daniel Shaver brought national scrutiny to the Mesa Police Department. The Department of Justice is still investigating Shaver's death, and Shaver's family filed a $75 million lawsuit over Brailsford's actions. It appears Flanagan has since deleted her comment. Flanagan recently made headlines in a joint Arizona Republic and KJZZ investigation into misconduct by teachers and how they often escape culpability. In 2014, a Red Mountain High School teacher struck up a relationship with a 15-year-old student. Other students found out about it, and when the rumor reached Flanagan, a school resource officer stationed at Red Mountain, Flanagan questioned the girl, who denied it. Flanagan asked the head of school athletics to question the accused teacher, who also denied it. As KJZZ and the Republic reported, Flanagan didn't write up a report on what she heard or the actions she took. The Mesa Police Department has since initiated an internal review into Flanagan's handling of the case. Months after Shaver's killing, Brailsford was fired and charged with second-degree murder, but he ultimately was acquitted of the charges and was even reinstated by the city of Mesa in August of 2018, only to be granted retirement on medical grounds because he claimed he suffered from post-traumatic stress disorder from killing Daniel Shaver. The retirement allows Brailsford to collect a pension, which totals $30,000 annually.
So Gabe Florin, I'm gonna play the clip that I have of his stuff because it has some of the video in it. His family filed a lawsuit end of last week, like a federal notice of wrongful death.
Well, that's good. They should have.
I don't know. That one kind of got lost for me, I guess, in the shuffle of everything else that's going on in the country. That was a pretty horrific one. I don't know if you've ever seen the Daniel Shaver body cam that's another case that really bothers me because those cops were just wrong.
I don't know do you have any context on that case? I don't.
This is a guy that was in a hotel. Sort of.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
But what he was really doing.
And killed him.
Yeah, and like it was a prolonged thing where he's like in a hallway and they're telling him not to pull his shorts up, and he's on his knees with his back to the officers and his hands over his head. And there are like several breaks there where they should have advanced and controlled. Mm-hmm. But instead of advancing and controlling, they held this weird standoff position with 2 or 3 officers, and they were armed with weapons they had no business being armed with. Their justification for it all was that the call they were on to that motel, presumably Shaver, a person with a gun.
Uh-huh.
And so it was a person with a gun call where supposedly someone had stuck a gun out the window of the motel.
Okay. Did he do that?
Well, you can't tell if he did it or not. Because what he had on him was like, I want to say it was pest control equipment, and there was like, so the police were responding to, reports. Okay, pulling it up, it says that he had a pellet gun. So the pellet gun was in the room. He didn't have it on him. It was in the room in a case. So the cop was charged with second-degree murder and an underlying manslaughter charge, and he was cleared. The cop was he was found not guilty. Prosecutors were trying to argue that it was an unjustified shooting, and the Department of Justice reopened the case at one point. Anyways, they reinstated the cop in August of 2018. He retired on medical grounds, and he got a pension. What the fuck?
So with Daniel Shaver, and you mentioned briefly that like the guy that shot him and killed him was suspended, but then reinstated and retired with full benefits, and
right.
Such clear cases of wrongful death, I guess, would be, and when it is so obviously clear that a police officer has murdered a citizen, whether it is the legal definition or not. I mean, you can tell. You can just, especially since everybody videos everything now, you can tell immediately, like, and all you have to do to be able to tell this is pretend it's 2 citizens having an interaction. And if the citizen and the citizen are interacting, and whatever occurs, a normal citizen would have to tolerate without the use of a weapon, then the cop has murdered the other person.
Yeah, I can.
Well, wait, hold on. I didn't finish my question.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, so if you can, so why is it that these people have entire agencies to investigate, or entire departments to investigate these things? It seems really shady. It's shady as hell.
What is shady?
The guy that killed Daniel Shaver getting his job back and drawing retirement. What is that?
Well, there's a whole convoluted process there where that wasn't just police department or their investigation. That was also like administrative law judge actions that took place where he claimed accidental disability and said he had PTSD from the incident that took Daniel Shaver's life. And I think that I don't know that guy's name off like the top of my head, but there were 2 guys that were like, one was giving orders and the other, but they were basically, they pinned Shaver's incident on those 2 guys, investigated them. One got criminal charges. The other quit police work and left the country. My thing with those guys, so Internal Affairs started to investigate police corruption and prevent police corruption. It was so law enforcement officers could not take advantage of their position. That's the idea behind Internal Affairs. It grew and expanded to include things like protecting citizens from cops, but the police, and like the reason I was getting at all of this, not trying to derail this conversation, this really is about Shaver, but it's also about the police. The police have a personality problem. That's the first step. And the second thing is they have a psychological problem. So, and I say that all-encompassing police, it's how they hire. It's how they train. It's the people they keep. It's the people they kick out. There are alternate universes all over the place that you could describe where a lot of the people who are criminals would also make very good cops. But the problem becomes that society expects a certain type of person. This person is going to enforce laws. Well, it's no different than like a mafia. A mafia chooses specific people to be their enforcers for reasons. And there's a balance there that we have exceeded. And that is where the types of personalities we hire, the people who can pass the psychological fitness exams, the people who pass the application process, we have weeded out a lot of the people who would have been better cops because of the way we do it. And I'm not saying it needs to be less stringent or anything like that, but it needs to be different.
Right, because you basically don't want that. So the way that cops are portrayed, like in order to be that person, you actually don't want those people to be cops because they're not what they should be. Cops are supposed to protect us and they're supposed to serve us. My opinion that they think that they need to punish us. They need to tell us what to do. They need to make sure that we understand that we are below the law and they are above it. And you said earlier that you believe that law enforcement deserves respect. I believe that officers who are doing the job of enforcing laws deserve respect. I don't believe that somebody who shows up badge and they're clearly breaking the law deserves any respect. That can be a hard thing to sort of swallow, but sorry.
So what is the balance there? Like, how do you get good cops doing that job?
Well, police work at this point. Police officers, I believe, anybody who has any, monochrome of education, they don't stay a beat cop, would be my thought on it. They're looking to become an investigator or to go into some sort of specialized field of criminology, because it's the patrol cop. It's the people who are pulling people over and giving citations and that kind of thing. And I think that's a job that's learned mostly by on-the-job training.
It was at about this point in the conversation that I completely derailed Meg with an argument, as I frequently do, about how one ends up staying a beat officer, a patrol officer, or an officer in a position of constantly interacting in the public for many years. We have differing opinions there. I'm going to rein that part of the conversation in because I have a case to tell you about that shocked me, Meg, and everyone who works here. And it barely made the news at all. I'll drop a link to this in the show notes, but I'm going to warn you right now, this is incredibly disturbing material.
For the very first time, you are about to see the moments when a national park ranger shoots and kills a visitor at a national park right here in our state. Now, some of you may not have even realized that park rangers are armed.
Carlsbad Caverns attracts millions of families and is the scene where a park ranger shot and killed this unarmed man. Now, this whole thing started after an alleged speeding on a dirt road. But a warning for you, you're about to see some video that is very graphic. Here's foreign investigator Chris Ramirez.
Go ahead and step over here, please.
Something's not right.
Turn around.
I know there's nothing that could justify why this happened. And I just can't understand why.
1099, shots fired.
Even though we have the moment when a park ranger shot and killed Gage Lorenz here at Carlsbad Caverns National Park, his family still has so many unanswered questions. Why did that park ranger pull out his taser and his service weapon to shoot an unarmed Gage Lorenz when there was no obvious signs of provocation?
That officer needlessly stole my son's life.
Gage Lorenz was working in Pecos, Texas in the gas and oil fields. This past March, he planned to visit his home in southwest Colorado. The drive took him through New Mexico, but he never made it past Carlsbad.
And I dropped to my knees screaming. I think not having any answers has been extremely difficult on our family.
Police reports indicate Gage planned to meet a friend at Carlsbad Caverns National Park on his drive north. The reports state he was speeding on this dirt road when park ranger Robert Mitchell pulled him over. Gage got out of his truck, and that's around the time that park ranger Mitchell turned on his lapel camera. The first 30 seconds are silent, but we can hear and see what happens next.
Go ahead and step over here, please. Okay, spread your feet for me.
Come on. That was pretty good timing, right?
Okay. Are these your friends over here?
No, I don't know what that is.
Okay. Okay. Go ahead and turn around. Turn around, sir.
Oh, come on. Get real with it. Other one.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yep.
Turn around.
No.
Take your hands out of your pockets.
And that is where that video ends. 26 seconds of Ranger Mitchell's lapel video is missing. When we pick up the next part after those 26 seconds, I want to explain to you what's going to happen because it moves very quickly. At some point during those missing 26 seconds, Ranger Mitchell moves from the taser in his left hand to a handgun in his right hand. He shoots Gage 2 times, once in the leg, once in the chest. And we got to tell you, what you're about to see moving forward is graphic. Three minutes and 21 seconds after Ranger Mitchell shot Gage.
All right. You're under arrest.
He put handcuffs on him. And Gage lied on the ground for more than 8 minutes before Ranger Mitchell removed the first aid kit out of his truck. And it wouldn't be until 12 minutes after the gunshots when Gage finally received any first aid. Ranger Mitchell did explain what happened during those 26 missing seconds. Here is his own version of events captured on his lapel video.
And that's when I shot him with the taser. Then it did nothing. I went for a drive stun. He hit me. Somewhere right here on the side of my head. I don't...
Yeah, he's kind of swollen.
Okay. And then the fight was on. He grabbed me around the neck and he tried to push my head into the push bar. And I came up and I fired one round. I don't know if I got him or not, but I definitely got him on the second one, and he crumpled.
Since the taser didn't work, Ranger Mitchell said he moved forward to apply the taser directly on Gage. That's a dry stun. 3 witnesses in a police report described Ranger Mitchell lunging into Gage, and that's when Gage is said to have fought back.
It shocks me that somebody could do such a horrible thing to such a sweet person.
Gage's family has spent months asking questions, but little or no answers have been given. Has anybody from the National Park Service reached out to you?
Not to me personally, no.
And does it bother you that here we are almost half a year later and nobody has been able to explain to you what happened?
Of course that bothers me. It makes me think that they're trying to cover something up.
The Eddy County Sheriff's Department investigated Gage's shooting death and turned over its findings to Diana Luz, the district attorney. And she too is concerned about those missing 26 seconds of the lapel video. And she does not want to rule if this shoot was justified or not until she has everything.
We've now been informed that perhaps they've been able, either it was a miscommunication that what we have is all of it, or there is some additional they've now been able to recover. So we want to inquire about that. We think that's really important to know that we have everything that was recorded.
They're deceiving this family. And why?
Shannon Kennedy plans on suing the National Park Service on behalf of Gage's family.
Let's start with the fact that this man takes out a taser and shoots Gage with no provocation from Gage whatsoever. There is no communication, there's no de-escalation.
We can see Gage does not follow the ranger's commands, but the ranger does not warn Gage that he plans to use force. And reports show Gage was unarmed. His toxicology reports show he had no alcohol and no drugs in his system.
Park ranger is insane. He's out of his mind. What is he arresting him for? Driving too fast down a country road? And he takes his life over that? It's a citation. It's a warning. It's not a death sentence.
According to the autopsy report, the first shot went into Gage's thigh, missing major arteries. But the second shot went through his heart. It was the fatal blow. When Ranger Mitchell fired that second shot, he was on top of Gage with a hand on his chest, the gun fired at close range.
This world is a far less better place without him.
Travis, Kim, and Skylar will continue pushing for answers.
Our son deserves justice.
We submitted a list of questions to the National Park Service. We wanted to know, is Ranger Mitchell still on the job? Was he ever disciplined? Was he ever retrained? An email from the Park Service confirms the department will internally investigate, and Ranger Robert Mitchell is on administrative assignment. Chris Ramirez, 4 Investigates.
We've also learned the feds are looking into this shooting as well. The National Park Service confirmed that both State District Attorney Diana Luce and the U.S. Attorney are independently reviewing Gage Lawrence's death.
And these recent incidents have caused a lot of conversation in my house.
I think I have to be absolutely clear that this topic is not mine. And I don't mean that I don't care about it or anything like that. It's Meg's topic. Meg, on top of the missing person, and on top of looking for unidentified people, and on top of living her life and doing her thing, Meg is in the background researching and all these other people that you haven't even heard about. So Gage Lawrence comes into play for a number of reasons. One is he's a young man. He's in his 20s working oil rigs, prime of his life type situation. And I have a teenager who's learning to drive, who I'm showing a lot of this stuff too, for a reason. They are going to have to interact with the police. And because of the situation with my teenager has a half-sibling who happens to be mixed race and who clearly looks to be either mixed race or African-American or brown. My concerns are these two, and it doesn't matter what they're out and doing in the world. But these two be out in the world together, potentially because of their own behaviors and because they're growing young people, the half-sibling being much older than my child, their interactions with the police are going to matter. The way that the police treat them, it's a situation where I can see if something happens to them, I know the ripple effect. I know how many people it will affect. And I am in that group. So I have a duty as a parent to educate them on these situations, to show them how this happens. And the next generation of kids, they are Gage Lawrence. They are a little mouthy. They do expect instant gratification. They are annoyed that the police have pulled them over. They don't want to be sitting there dealing with a traffic stop. That's something the police are going to have to be prepared for.
Okay, so this is the Gage Lawrence video. Go ahead.
Okay, so let's assume that he did lunge at the officer, right? So the officer was close range, lunged at him. First of all, if he didn't lose the taser in his hand, if the guy lunged at it, he should have just put the taser on him again and just tased him.
He couldn't. Sure. He said he missed with the cartridge, and what he called it was a dry stun.
Yeah, why didn't he?
That means the cartridge is gone. It's not reloadable, and what he is doing is he's taking the prongs that are in the taser directly and putting them on the skin. That's a dry stun. You put it on the skin and pull the trigger. When he first pulled that trigger, it fired 10 feet. It missed him. So then he went up to give him the jolt from the battery directly. He called it a dry stun to the other cop.
Okay, so that's what I'm saying. Did he successfully do that or not?
We don't know because it cut out. And, well, the video cutting out could be taser interference.
Yeah.
At no point did he say, though, that I heard, you're under arrest until after he had already been shot.
Well, that was 3 minutes after he'd been shot, but there was no under arrest going. There was nothing to arrest him for. You can't arrest him for speeding
20
or
over the
erratic
speed
driving.
And he was just he might have been just being obnoxious, but that's not a reason to shoot someone.
Okay, but he was going to detain him, and the kid was trying to, like, joke around and stuff and just, like, lighten the mood, I guess. He was, like, dancing at that one point, and I think that's what threw the officer off. I think the officer thought he was on something. It was probably pretty erratic.
I'd have to look at the date and time, but it's probably the end of the kid's work week.
Yeah.
And the kid has probably got that feeling like Friday, it doesn't matter what day of the week it is, but
Just like, oh yeah, we're done.
Like, yay.
But on back roads
A park.
Unmarked roads, like it's a dirt road where it's probably one lane and there's no, it's...
That was a big dirt road, Jay.
But I'm saying that it's not like, there's not posted speed limits the entire time. Like, there's probably...
I agree.
I don't really feel like the speeding thing is like a serious offense that it's going to warrant like a response like that.
He was going to pat the guy down, I believe. I think he was just going to detain, pound down, and then let him go. But then when he had his hands in his pockets and he was acting weird, I understand that. But he didn't let the officer really talk. He wasn't listening to him.
So this is in Carlsbad, New Mexico. The guy works in Texas, lives in Colorado. I agree with you guys. He's taking a shortcut, basically. It's what this kid is doing. He's taking a fuck-off cut. Like, he's going back through the woods so he can do whatever he wants to do.
You're supposed to be meeting a friend there.
One of the problems they've had in that area that I noticed in the police incident reports was they've had a series of events over the last year or so where these people have been using the ATMs right outside the parks. And the ATM use has resulted in theft. Basically, someone's been observing people using ATMs there in Carlsbad and then following them and robbing them of what they took from the ATM. So that's one thing that's been going on that might have put them on high alert. You saw the cop in the video. He doesn't look like he would have stood up well to fighting a 26-year-old who's in pretty good oil shape, oil field shape. But so what Meg and I have been debating is, like, is this worth a conversation? Because she and I have been looking pretty closely at statistics related to the colors of people who get shot by the police. And this is a real good example, kind of in the middle of everything, where we have a case we could go and, like, kind of dig into as the process goes along. What do you guys think of that part? Is there something interesting about this story when you look at it?
Yeah, there's 26 seconds, right? 26 seconds of missing footage. A kid going 20 miles over the speed limit, he doesn't even really get a state away from where he's working to go back. The taser misses, and then he's shot twice. And then the dude doesn't go and get the first aid kit, and even after he does,
several minutes later.
Yeah, and then he detains him.
Then he puts him in handcuffs.
He puts him in handcuffs as he's bleeding out and dying.
Well, you can't. That's hindsight, though. You can't tell you shot someone through the heart.
Oh yeah.
I think it would be interesting to see what kind of training these people get.
Like what the BLET looks like out there, the basic law enforcement training and the advanced.
And he's very out of shape.
He's following any sort of protocol.
There's no de-escalation, is what they were saying, which is a thing that.
That's what the lawyer said.
He didn't call anything in. Like, he didn't ask.
He did. He called in after shots. He said shots have been fired. He didn't say I have shots.
He said 1099. I don't know if that's officer needs assistance or shots fired, but he said something.
Let's assume that he did not lunge at the officer.
All right.
He didn't. There was no evidence that the kid had any kind of weapon or that he was like gonna of what we've seen. Like, it wasn't any kind of combativeness from like that would warrant any sort of.
Yes, there was. He said, "Be real with me. Take the other one out." Talking about the guns.
He was taunting him.
Okay, but still, when you tell a police officer to take out their live weapon, that's not a thing, or a ranger.
It's interesting that you take that position because I tend to agree with Jamie. Just as a person, having been alive for a while, I didn't take anything that kid said very seriously.
Right.
Okay.
I thought he was dancing.
He's messing around, right? But look at it like this. This kid is in, like, this park, right? I don't know what time it is or whatever.
It looks like it's daylight.
Well, yeah, and he's just kind of he's driving pretty fast, and this guy's probably never seen him before, so he's like, oh, this is kind of weird, and then he starts dancing, and then he says, take the other gun out. Now, when all this stuff is going on, like, it doesn't matter. Cops are known for shooting people that are unarmed for no reason. Why would you say, even as a joke, take out the real one? Even as a joke, that's really stupid. That's how you get shot.
I don't disagree with you.
I don't disagree with you either.
But I think, me personally, had I been, and this is hard to do, but I know for a fact I never would have pulled a taser on that kid.
No.
Me. Like, as I stand right here, I would never have pulled a taser on that kid.
Well, because
I would have written him a ticket at that point. In fact, I would have written him a reckless ticket that made him come to federal court. That would have been my way to fuck with him.
There's obviously something that's missing.
Yeah, the 26 seconds.
Well, no, the 26 seconds are after the fact.
No, but I wouldn't even pull a taser on somebody who's acting that way.
Yeah, that's what he was saying. He said he would just write a ticket.
You're next. Go.
I don't know.
You realize that's not nefarious, right?
Yeah, I understand both sides of it, but
No. I'm saying the 26 seconds is because when you grab somebody, the two of you fucking around like that and the taser going off
can hit the camera or whatever.
That can mess with the button on the camera. I don't think that was nefarious.
But what I was saying is I can see both sides of it, so I understand where, like, the family's like, oh, like, why would you ever do that? But at the same time, the other officer comes up to the guy and is like, oh, yeah, I see your head, it's kind of swelling, which leads me to believe that he, in fact, did hit the officer. And the officer, like, he didn't expect the officer to come up and tase him, which he shouldn't have done. But
I don't think you escalate to a gun, though.
I know, but his reaction was to hit him, and so the cop's reaction was, oh god, I need to defend myself, and the taser obviously isn't working, and so he decided to shoot him. I don't understand why when he had him down, he didn't decide to shoot him in the leg again, even though he didn't know he shot him the first time. I don't know why you put it right on the side where the heart is, too, and pull the trigger.
I see what you're saying. I don't understand the gun coming out.
No.
Like, that's just another charge. At that point, he's guilty of assault with a deadly weapon or assault on a government employee. So, like, you just escalate his charges, and that's what you let him know. You don't
Okay, but I'm saying
shoot him.
So say you did agree with him taking the gun. Say, like, it doesn't matter. He had the gun out anyways, right? So that was always going to happen. He shouldn't have shot him in the chest.
What's the name of the person who got shot?
Gage something.
Charles Lawrence, his
no, the guy that got shot.
He goes, Charles Lawrence is his name. He goes by Gage, Gage.
He shouldn't have been shot in the heart.
No, he shouldn't have been shot at all.
Okay, that's what I'm saying though. If he had to be shot, the officer should have just put another one in his leg.
It's really hard to question the Rangers' ability to make that decision. But the bigger problem comes in is, like, should the Rangers still be on the job if people like that are a threat?
No, absolutely not. Here he is. Here's his Facebook page. There's nothing on here that talks about...
He's just like a typical
hardworking kid that is...
asshole kid.
And works far from his family.
That is all he is. It's just a kid.
Here's Hunter.
Yep. I saw the picture of hunting. I saw all of that.
With his hard hat on. Here's him and his sister.
Yeah, he seems pretty country even though he lives in Colorado.
Yeah, he's a little bit of a redneck.
Yeah.
Right. I mean,
I don't know.
What was the name of the officer?
Doesn't matter. He's overweight.
Wait. What? No, she's got a good point. Hold on. All right.
See what he's been posting, because if he's been posting,
hold on. Hold on. The body camera, though. All right. So that guy wearing the body camera. And I apologize for some of the quality of the sound and the fact that the dogs won't leave us alone while we're having that conversation. I cut out as much as I could. But the reason that we're all sitting around in this informal setting will come up at the end of this episode after I give Meg a chance to tell me about what she thinks of what happened to Gage Lorenz.
Was Shaver, I mean, you can watch it. It's terrible.
I actually have seen it. I remember because I watched it like around the time it happened. Yeah. And I remember it enough to know I don't want to watch it again. I did watch it, and it was terrible.
It's one of the worst ones I've ever seen.
From what I remember,
Gage's tox was clean, by the way. Gage Lorenz had no drugs or alcohol in his system when he was shot.
Okay, so he was just an unusual person. Not unusual in a bad way, just...
So here's what the official report says on Gage. It says that the ranger, Mitchell is his last name of the ranger. So the ranger investigating an unauthorized camping incident. I don't know what that means. And in the process, he was in an area called Rattlesnake or on a road called Rattlesnake. Gage's truck went by at a high rate of speed and hit a sign. He hit a road sign somehow. So when I guess his name is Charles Lorenz Gage. So when Lorenz is kind of mouthy to the ranger, but mouthy is not a reason to shoot.
That's fine. I watched that body cam footage.
Okay.
And the problem with that situation is, and maybe you can answer a couple of these questions. Did the ranger have on what appeared to be like a law enforcement uniform? Would Gage have been aware that this was an actual person who actually had authority to do something?
Here is my impression of that, and I don't have an exact answer, but what I think he was wearing was a polo and khakis, and the polo had an embroidered patch on it indicating authority, but I do know he was wearing a full service belt, meaning he had a belt that had handcuffs in the rear, a radio, a taser on one side, and a gun on the other. I have seen the description of that part, like in the wrongful death filing, but it's not it's not totally clear. The other pictures I've seen, the ranger's name is Robert Mitchell. The other pictures I've seen of him seem to indicate that he was not in like a khaki uniform. Is that what you're picturing?
I'm just trying to decipher how seriously a ordinary person would have taken this interaction. And then from that, how seriously would Gage take this interaction? So what I'm saying is you encounter people out and about who just want to tell you what to do, even if they have no authority to do so, right? From the very beginning, it seemed like that is the impression I got just from watching him from where the body cam footage starts. Now, he does have a body cam on. I don't know how obvious that is.
The main thing that makes me question what the uniform was, because the body cam to me appears to be centered in his chest, which would indicate button down.
Okay, well, and like I said, you might be able to answer, you might not. And in the end, my point on it, it doesn't really matter. But I think that it's possible that Gage did not take the man seriously because he didn't look serious.
Okay, so I'm just going to make some real basic observations here, and you can do what you want with it commentary-wise. But so Robert Mitchell, from the photos and interactions I've seen of Robert Mitchell, he is a larger gentleman. And I'm not faulting anyone when I say this. He sort of gives the appearance of being even in a uniform, even on his best day, a 20-something kid might think mall security guard, if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, that's sort of what I was imagining, so...
Yeah, so, I have seen him...
They're basically a joke.
I don't know that pushes me one way or the other as far as, the incident itself. But, yeah, I don't think...
Well, like you said, a mall security guard is not a real law enforcement officer.
Yeah,
it's a joke.
But at the same time, that might be useful for the defense of the ranger from the perspective of he felt physically threatened by this young oil rig worker who was in good shape. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's fine. I'm okay with the defense saying that, because ultimately that's not going to fix.
Oh, I know it's not a fix. It's a wrongful death suit. It's not a criminal occurrence yet. So I think in a criminal occurrence it could sway. I don't think it'll sway in a wrongful death suit, because a wrongful death is wrongful death is wrongful death.
Right, but you have to remember that, the part of, so, we have this video, we have a cut out of the video where there's nothing happening for 26 seconds or something like that. I don't know.
There's a missing portion. The lawsuit alleges that that's tampered with. I tend to disagree, but they say that the evidence, 26 seconds, was cut out on purpose.
As far as I'm concerned, it doesn't really matter, because the part that it does cut back in on that I remember very vividly from watching it was the fact that this larger, older man has Gage Lawrence basically pinned down to the ground, okay? And he takes his gun and he shoots him right in the chest.
Right, that was the second shot. The first shot was a pretty serious but superficial, if that makes sense, leg wound, like to the thigh.
And so my point is, having someone pinned down and shooting them in the chest is not, I'm afraid for my life. It's, I'm killing this guy.
I mean, yeah, that's where it crossed into, yeah.
Because any situation, if you've got somebody pinned down, there's no reason to shoot them in the chest unless you are going to kill them.
Yeah,
it's murder.
It's definitely, regardless of what adrenaline and fight or flight is kicking in or whatever, it is definitely, you can tell in the video, he is clearly making the decision to take that second shot.
Right. And why is it that he's doing that?
Well, I don't know why. There is no good reason except for death to take a point-blank chest shot after someone is down on the ground like that.
Right. Now,
and no amount of taunting by a kid, because the kid to me looks younger than he actually is. Like, just watching him stand there, he's a man. I put that in big air quotes, but he's also like, he's a youthful 20-something person that is being a smartass. But no amount of smarting off should result in a shot to the chest like that.
Right, and it's actually, and I think that I don't want this point to be missed. And the reason that I kept saying, like, it really doesn't matter to several aspects of this case is that at the end of the day, it is not any law enforcement officer's job to be sitting on somebody, having control over them, even if it's not, even if it's still volatile control at the moment. That's when you regroup and you get, actual control. You don't shoot them in the chest. That's murder. But that's why I said, like, there is no defense here. It doesn't matter if he did look like a mall cop. It doesn't matter if the kid thought he was a mall cop. Honestly, it doesn't matter what the kid did in any capacity as far as him being, a smart ass or him not doing what the officer told him to do. At that point, when he's down on the ground like that, the cop or the ranger who has the control of the situation, he then says, "You're under arrest." And in my opinion, he was scared. And it's police officers or rangers or any law enforcement like that can't handle themselves in those encounters without putting the gun to someone's chest. Those are the kind of officers we don't need. Because feeling threatened is one thing. Killing that kid is another.
I want to point out to you that NPS Rangers are law enforcement. Not only that, they are more well trained than the average police officer.
I could tell.
I mean, they're he should have known better. I don't mean that I'm not talking about a beat cop. I'm talking about that dude should have known better because he panicked. And I could tell he panicked.
Which is what I'm saying. Like, those are the type of people that should say, this is not for me.
In my mind, it's one of those cases where it's automatically a case of manslaughter. Like, it just is manslaughter. However, because he, presumably has his training up to date with the NPS and the federal law enforcement system that they have in place, I escalate that to second-degree murder. I don't think it's first-degree murder, except, and, I want to take the devil's advocate and be, like, on the Rangers' side for this. I can't because of that second shot. So he makes one mistake early, and the mistake is he misses him with the taser. So the mindset of the Ranger is clearly, like, muscle memory is kicking in, because when he misses him with the taser, he goes in for what's called a dry stun. The dry stun is when you're just taking the prongs that are left on the taser, not a cartridge, and you are using those to subdue a suspect.
Right, but you have to come into contact with skin.
Right. You have to come into contact with skin. You're not going to get them through, a thick shirt. It looks like the guy's got like a flannel or something on. I mean, I can't tell exactly what his shirt material is, but it looks like, it's not. He's not going to get through it.
Okay. Go ahead.
But I just want to say that, so he's made his mistake with the missing. He's made his mistake not getting the dry stun, and then it cuts out. And for 26 seconds, there's a gap because they were struggling with each other. That's what's going on. So the struggle that they have going on, Gates has no weapon, okay? It gets worse after it comes back from the gap. But which is
why I don't think it's edited. Like, I think something went off.
I think somebody's hand got on it. And I think it's probably
why not
Gage's hand.
Well, I was going to say, why not just cut that part out too? Like, that's actually, to me, the most important part, no matter what has happened up to that point.
And that's the thing. When it comes back on after that gap, we see the shots, and that second shot is point blank, and his muscle memory doesn't he's thinking about that shot. He may not have thought about the first shot, that could have been part of the panic, but once you fire a gun, everything snaps into focus for a second. And
but go ahead.
He had to choose to kill him.
Right, and that's exactly what he was doing. He was killing him. He was not shooting in fear for his life in self-defense. He was mad, and he killed him. Now,
and
there were 3 witnesses at the scene that, regardless of the fact that the body cam footage was cut out, they saw, and I believe all 3 of them said it was the Ranger who made the move towards Gage.
Absolutely. The Ranger admits he made the move.
So, okay, you say that his first mistake was missing with the taser. All right, I respectfully disagree with that, because I feel like his first mistake was even thinking about tasing this kid. What was he doing that would warrant that?
So part of me says it's the mouthing off, and this guy wanted.
So if we mouth off, we get tased.
Well, he wanted, he wanted to run the guy, make sure he wasn't wanted for anything, and there's a number of things I can say there that are like law enforcement splaining. But
right,
I don't want
he doesn't get to just run him. Like, that's actually, he didn't have to provide him with any information. That's where some of these other questions are important. If he was driving a vehicle, yes, he should have a driver's license to present to the officer. If the officer doesn't have probable cause for arrest, which I'm pretty sure hitting a sign at a park is probably a ticket type thing, depending on the circumstances. But without probable cause for arrest, he doesn't even have the authority to ask him to present himself to him legally.
So you think the mistake starts with even pulling the taser? And that is...
No, I think the mistake starts probably for this situation here. And my understanding is the ranger didn't the way that Gage Lorenz was acting, basically. Now, the accusations about, him driving too fast, which doesn't really indicate that he was speeding. It could have been too fast for the ranger's liking. Who knows? Okay. Without some more information leading up to that, the encounter should have been to the effect of, son, you were going awful fast and you hit this sign. And I don't know if there was actual damage or not. That would change things. I need you to slow down while you're going through here. Okay? And at that point, basically it ends. Unless there's something I'm missing. Now, that doesn't mean he can't watch him. That doesn't mean that when he tears the road up getting out of there that he can't pull him over again and call for backup and proceed, okay? But from what I hear, it's really iffy if there were any actual laws broken or if, this ranger just didn't like the way this kid was acting on his land. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
Okay, that isn't an encounter. I mean, it happens all the time. Law enforcement does this all the time. That doesn't mean it's legal. And it absolutely does not mean that this kid should have ended up shot.
You changed it for me when you say when you say pulling the taser is the mistake. I do agree with that perspective now that you've said it the way you said it. But that's when the kid starts acting like an idiot.
Okay, but I don't necessarily think that is different from how, most people would act when all of a sudden you're thrust into this situation where, literally nothing's happening. I mean, even if he went flying through there, my understanding is they're on, this, remote desert road.
It's pretty
in
deserted.
A park, right?
Yeah, it's pretty deserted.
Okay. And okay, so here's some things that could change in favor of law enforcement, just to sort of give both sides. If there is a posted speed limit sign, if he was seen passing the speed limit sign and he was exceeding the speed limit and there is some sort of speedometer calculation indicating that he was doing so, that would be evidence to support him being pulled over by law enforcement, which in this case would be the ranger, and having this kind of confrontation situation here, okay? I don't think any of that stuff happened. Do you remember what is said at the very beginning of the encounter?
The encounter kind of picks up. So first of all, there's a distance of 30 yards between the vehicle that Lorenz is driving, that Gage is driving, and the vehicle that the ranger is driving.
Okay, well, that leads me to believe that he wasn't pulled over per se.
Well, okay, so here's what the lawsuit said at the beginning, and then I'll go back to answering your question. The lawsuit says, ranger came into the area looking for an unauthorized camper, didn't find the camper, but while he was there, that Gage drove his truck down this little gravel road, and this area is called Rattlesnake Springs, and had to, he was driving a little fast, is all it said. It doesn't indicate the speed or anything, but that he had to swerve to avoid the ranger's NPS SUV, and that he ran off the road and hit a road sign, and that the ranger pulled up the gravel road and Gage turned and parked. But that doesn't line up. What they say there doesn't line up with what I see in the video, because the ranger is clearly gone past the truck and pulled off a little road, and then the truck has stopped at the corner of the it's like a T intersection that it stopped at. And so the first part of the encounter that we see, Gage is standing 10 yards from his truck. The ranger is facing him, and Gage is dancing to music from a nearby campsite. That's what we see.
And the conversation begins with what?
are those people friends of yours? And Gage says, I don't fucking know who those people are.
Okay. Yeah. So see, that isn't even, so the impression I got, and I don't know like how far before the video this started, like the interaction began, like there is not a situation from a normal 24, 25-year-old guy to read into this that if I don't do what this guy says, I'm going to get killed.
Oh, no, not at all. And that's not, like...
And so that's where, like, I mean, that's where it's sort of like, well, the reason he didn't think that is because it's ridiculous.
Right, and I agree with you there. Like, basically, he is standing there thinking, I'm going to get a ticket. So the guy pulls out the taser. Gage says, no, the other one. Like, fucking with him. And, you know, from there...
Yeah, I don't understand that at all. Like, I didn't get that.
What,
like,
why he said it?
Is he going, yeah, right, you're not going to tase me for this. If you're going to tase me, you might as well just go ahead and shoot me. Is that what he's saying?
I think that's what he's saying.
Right, because it's so ridiculous. He's like, yeah, I mean, if you're going to do this, do it right. But he doesn't have a death wish in saying that. He's not actually provoking the ranger in saying that. He's saying, dude, you know you're not going to tase me. So since you're just going to pretend, hold the gun. Now, that, to me, I mean, it's pushing it too far, but I do think that's what he was doing. I don't think, okay, so, you know, in the legal world of things, I don't know how the interaction began. I don't know what authorities, you know, you said they're law enforcement, which is fine. Law enforcement officers, you know, they have the authority to enforce laws. Now, they don't have the authority to punish anything, though. And I think that's where it gets really hard for law enforcement to sort of decipher their role, because literally the only thing they're supposed to do is write tickets and take people into custody. This particular situation, it screams punishment from the jump, essentially. I mean, he is irritated at this kid. The kid isn't taking him seriously. He's being disrespectful, but guess what? That's not illegal. Anything that happens, okay, between law enforcement and people, or people and people, or law enforcement and law enforcement, like the very last thing you want to happen is to take someone's life.
Right.
Okay, and so it almost seemed like when he was talking afterwards, when the body cam comes back on, or maybe that's somebody else's body cam. I'm not actually sure.
That's his. It's his. There's another cop talking.
Okay, yeah. But that's not... Okay, yeah. I get confused because I know that there is somebody that comes into play. Now, who's that guy? Is he a sheriff?
No, I would have to go back and look. There's someone who comes on the scene that I think is a supervisor for MPS. I don't know. I don't think that's the sheriff yet.
That would actually be like really relevant to see what kind of hierarchy is expected as far as like who really calls the legal shots there. Like, is it? So you're telling me that like a national park ranger is a sworn law enforcement officer?
In this instance, yes. They go through the training academy and become a sworn law enforcement officer, yes.
Okay. So then they can make arrests and they can do everything else any other sworn law enforcement officer can do.
Correct.
Okay. So I would just be interested to know, like, what the norm is. Do you have any idea how long that man was a law enforcement officer?
There's an officer-involved shooting team with the NPS that's involved right now. That's interesting. I did not know that was a thing. He started as a seasonal employee with the National Park Service in 2002. In 2003, he was hired on as a ranger. He's been working for them ever since then.
So like 18 years. How old is he?
Does not reflect his age in here. Well, so do you have any final thoughts on the Gaze Lawrence shooting? Or we're exceeding the recording time a little bit. That's why I'm asking this, because I need to start
No, I think
over.
I've covered it like repeatedly, so.
I have multiple versions of it.
Yeah, so yeah. I think I'm good unless you have.
No, I don't think so. I mean, it's a terrible shooting. It never should have happened. There's nothing I can say that would ever justify what's going on there. So.
Right, but the whole mindset. So what I see as far as him talking afterwards, like his statement about it, like you can tell this guy has no clue. Like he doesn't realize that never should have happened. Like he actually thinks the kid should have just done what he said, and that the fact that he didn't justified him taking him down and out like that. It's so weird.
I agree. It's really weird.
And I think that the more that law enforcement and then like normal people realize that, like the closer we are to a solution. Like this is not normal behavior. You don't do this to people just because you're a law enforcement officer.
Right. And I don't know where they get that idea from.
Well, it's from their on-the-job training.
Yeah, but on-the-job training isn't teaching them to be murderers. It shouldn't be.
Well, exactly. It shouldn't be. But also, this is one of those rare instances where the person doesn't just do what he says.
Yeah.
Okay, and, a lot of us, myself included, we comply because it's not worth the conflict.
Yeah, I mean, I largely do that to get the situation to a conclusion.
Right, because it really isn't worth it, and, there is nothing you can do about it. But, Gage decided, I'm not doing this. And from what I've seen, what he did was perfectly legal. He did not break any laws because, again, if you think about it, the interaction that he would have had with him at this point would have been limited to whatever another citizen would have been able to do. Okay?
Right.
Because there was no indication that, that the ranger had probable cause to take him into custody. And, really, it seems to me like law enforcement would be completely immune to back talk by now.
Especially having 18 years of park experience.
Right?
I can't imagine that this is the first teenager that this guy came across or 20-something that this guy came across that's an idiot.
Okay, so here's the difference. The guy didn't do what he said. I imagine everybody always ends up doing what he says, especially if he pulls that taser out like that.
And that's really sad.
It is really sad.
Yeah,
it is really sad. When you got like somebody who did a little something wrong, they're less likely to complain. Gage did a little something wrong, whatever it was. He attracted the ranger's attention for whatever reason. And, the ranger was kind of almost acting like a school teacher or a school principal, like just trying to kind of get at him. And that to me was stupid. Like, don't do that. You need to either, do your job, enforce the law, but like he didn't need a lecture or whatever was happening. It's just the most bizarre encounter because it really was unnecessary. I can't tell what was trying to be accomplished.
I don't know what the end goal was there. That kind of murder ending that kind of encounter is unacceptable no matter what the reasoning it is.
Right, because it's basically an alpha dog peeing on his territory. That's that's how my brain equates that situation.
I'm letting you talk, but I was trying to see if there's anything else on this case that was interesting in this lawsuit, but there's not.
Oh my gosh, I hate this. Ugh. It makes me
What?
so mad. Just the whole situation. It just makes me so mad because it was senseless.
Yeah,
and
the kid's
if the
dead.
ranger
They're, like-
hadn't been so like hell bent on like being in charge, that kid would still be alive.
Well, what I'm distracted by right this second is I'm trying to figure out if they're going to be able to essentially seal this off because it's federal. I'm wondering if they're going to have a settlement, and then we're just never going to know. They're just going to settle the wrongful death suit.
It doesn't sound like there's any criminal charges pending, so
It doesn't look like there's anything. Well, it's not quite time. They have 6 months from the incident. September 22nd would be the 6-month mark for this.
So, in your opinion, how is this compared to, for example, George Floyd?
Well, so statistically speaking, people get bent out of shape when you start comparing like police interactions with different races. So,
okay, well, just pretend they're both people.
So, okay, they are both people, so I don't have to pretend.
No, I know that. That's what I'm saying. They're like, don't take race into consideration. Just say they're both people. Like, don't consider it.
So the actions of the officers in the Floyd incident were above and beyond horrific. The actions of this officer are above and beyond horrific. In a lot of ways, there are similarities. I would say, okay, I'm not going to get into this.
No, but this is part of it, though, because to me,
it's not part of it. They were like, they had a duty to investigate it. They had a duty to call someone else.
What is the punishment for passing a counterfeit bill?
It's not death. Is that what you're getting at?
No,
I don't
I'm getting at.
I'm not going to talk about George Floyd.
That's kind of dumb because it actually bolsters our case. You should talk about it, but whatever.
Well, I don't
in the
like
event that there was
I don't like
probable cause.
I don't like what the police did there, but I also don't like what people did there.
Well, you don't know what I'm going to say, so
Okay, go ahead.
maybe if you listen. So, in the event that there was probable cause to believe that George Floyd had committed a crime, where does laying him down on the ground and putting your knee on him come into place?
No,
it doesn't,
those cops
right?
are terrible. Those cops are terrible.
Okay, so he gets arrested and he goes to jail, and the judge decides his punishment, right?
Right.
Okay, now, in the case of George Floyd, the officer that put his knee on his neck did not, in fact, take a gun and shoot him in the chest.
What do you mean? Say that one more time.
The officer who took his knee and put it on George Floyd's neck, okay, as horrific as that is, he did not take a gun and put it on his chest and shoot him.
Right.
Okay. Gage's situation is way worse.
Well, in saying it like that, Gage's situation became an outright execution. Outright execution.
Well, but my words don't change what happened. It's just a perspective thing, right? See, because
you picked a hot button topic and one that's not even been talked about, and you try and compare the two. It's hard.
But it's still I'm not making anything up and drawing that comparison. I'm just saying, like, at least he could claim I don't know if the guy was trying to kill him or not. It was stupid. He shouldn't have been doing that to a grown man. It gets into all kinds of other things. I don't know if George Floyd was committing a crime. I don't really care. In the event he should have been put in the back of the car and taken in. Okay, if that was the case. However, under those circumstances, he was just detaining him. He killed him, but he was just trying to detain him. Then you've got the park ranger who shoots at him, jumps on him, and holds a gun to his chest and pulls the trigger.
And the truth is, I could let Meg go on for days about these cases because she knows a lot about them. She spent a lot of time researching them, and they infuriate her, as you can see. But I wasn't trying to record an inflammatory episode. I just wanted to add to the conversation about Gage Lorenz. One of my biggest concerns about cases like that is that they fall through the cracks.
So the most interesting thing that happened is we have been able to pitch a video version, or film version, if you will, of a moving picture version of True Crime XS. So that's what we're working on right now. So there is a new season coming. It's going to be a little while. We're spending the summer putting together footage, a video version of what we've been doing already. We're probably putting together a separate podcast that we will advertise here in the feed if you want to listen to it, because it's not going to be the exact same type of content, but it is, it takes an element from this, and that is sort of being critical of law enforcement in a helpful way, not in an unhelpful way, if that makes sense. But it would be covering, major cases, sort of revolving around incidents with the police. And we think that, a lot of them you might never have heard of. So that's one element that we're looking at, how to move on with True Crime XS. We've been talking to investigators on two cases. One case is a case of someone who might be a serial killer, who is currently locked up but won't be for long. And the other is a serial killer with a lot of details, but also no bodies. He's also alive and he's locked up, but he's locked up for life. So we were looking at those type cases to expand to make a season 2. Now, there will be more about keys, but we're thinking that most of the next round of key stuff, we need to show you what we're looking at, and we need to show a wider audience. So the goal there for us is to get it in a limited series form and to pick, a dozen cases or maybe a few more and physically go to the site so that you guys can see what we're talking about. For instance, there's this cemetery conversation that takes place, and that cemetery just happens to be right behind Dinosaur Valley State Park. Well, we were trying to figure out if they had pit latrines at that time or if they still have one that's like an abandoned pit latrine, because that's what we found in Texas. That's what we found in Florida. The reason that he told about Samantha Koenig and that he told people about the couriers is because their bones, their bodies were not yet in pit latrines. Samantha Koenig actually went into a lake. She was an alternative because you're going to run into a problem with pit latrines being frozen up in Alaska. And that was one of the things we discussed early on, was how does that work? Who could possibly be in one there? And there were some cases we didn't mention that we may end up having to cover to some degree. The other part of that is with Texas, a lot of the pit latrines that I focused in on were abandoned pit latrines. So they were no longer actively being used, particularly with the Rachel Cook case. There's one down there that's actually made of limestone. With Jimmy Tidwell, we sort of want to look there. So he would be on our list. But really what we want to do is cover some of these cases that we feel we feel pretty confident that there are things we could cover in video that would be really interesting for a wider audience. And there's a couple dozen cases that we would want to, it would sort of be documentary style. And that's what we're working on right now. We've got everything together. There's already footage being filmed, and there's already all the documents that you need to pitch it appropriately. And in fact, it's already out to, by the time that you guys hear this, it's already out to a dozen or 24 producers, depending on how the holiday goes. Ultimately, because of the pandemic, we had to sort of pare that down and make it something friendly for the pandemic, something that could be done with just a couple of people. And that was the catch to it all. But I've been trying to help Meg visualize what we'd be doing there, and Jamie, and we brought a couple of other folks in to assist us. But the goal there is to give True Crime XS a video backup so that you can look and see the faces of these people to some degree. We still want to maintain some anonymity for victims' families, particularly ones if we were to come across them. That's sort of what we've been debating is how far do you take this? We're definitely going to document a portion of this and release it. And we don't know how that release is going to happen yet. You know, it could be something where it's just, you know, free, or it's on one of the streaming services. We don't know how big it's going to be until we actually have it in our hands. But there will still be audio content. There will still be audio content. That's sort of the point of the, you know, what's next for True Crime XS, is that we are, you know, we have years invested in other cases, and I have to get Meg up to speed and show her what I'm looking at. And it may not be the same format. There will possibly be more Keys content, because Meg has a lot of things that she wants to say about Keys, and that will end up, you know, sort of playing into either video form or the audio form, or maybe both. So it's not that, you know, what's next for True Crime XS, we're abandoning it and doing something else. It's just that it takes a lot of time to put together all of that content and all of that material. And with some of the other podcast stuff we've been looking at doing, it's not exactly the same. So we don't want to just dump that in the True Crime XS feed. Basically, we want to be able to put into the True Crime XS feed hunting for bodies and serial killers. Like, that's the big thing that we want to do. We may take a little bit of a right turn and look at whether or not someone is a serial killer. The other possibility that we've been examining for the audio content is that I think I found a serial killer that no one's identified in a specific location that shouldn't have as many disappearances and missing persons as it does. And I do think we're going to spend some time over the next 6 months trying to figure out why that is. So this is not like a huge update. It's not a full episode. This is just sort of for the feed, for anyone coming across the feed. It's what's next. We are literally attempting to expand True Crime XS, the Keys story, where the bodies are buried, into video form. And then we're going to be putting more audio content out, and possibly expanding where we have a second podcast that some of you might be interested in. It could be all of you. I don't know for sure, but that content will be of a slightly different nature. It's going to examine some cases that you've never heard of. And I'm going to put like a small example in here of what that might sound like, so that you guys can hear it and decide if it's, you know, something you would want to listen to. We don't have a name for that yet, and if it just fails on its face, then we may just stick to the True Crime XS audio content and pursue the video content as well. But I did want to put an update into the feed so that everyone knew that, like, there was more content coming. It just takes time to work on it.
Thanks for joining us. You can reach us at 252-365-5593 or at truecrimexs.com or truecrimexs@gmail.com if you want to send us a note. This episode was brought to you by labrotticreations.com. That's LABROTTIECREATIONS.com. Check out the merchandise, and specifically their fun Pop Pet art custom pieces made from photos of your very own pets. Use the promo code CRIMEXS, that's CRIMEXS, for 20% off a fun, brightly colored, happy piece of art of your own pet at their site, labrotticreations.com. Music in this episode was licensed for True Crime XS. The theme song was Indestructible by Noah Smith. You can find us on your favorite podcast platform or at TeePublic, Instagram, or Twitter. You can also join us on Patreon to fund future body exploration trips. But the best thing you can do for us is leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform and share us with your friends. And don't forget, on July 3rd, we are literally revealing where the bodies are buried. See you next week.
This is True Crime XS.
And the point of all this, like, we could go on and on and on for days, but this is a new thing that we're going to use some Meg's research over the years to do as we work on the Keys stuff, and we work on the other cases that we're doing for the podcast proper. There's one more thing, though. There's always one more thing. So we've got to do the Keys update, and then there's one more thing. There's this guy, Derek Thompson, and it's a corridor I know well up in Virginia, and a trooper pulls him over. You got to hear this audio. Meg sends this to me like last minute, and she's like, what do you think of this guy? And this is one of those people that I start making threats. I don't do that very often, but I want people to hear what's going on. First of all, the reason for the pull is absolute horseshit. There's 3 troopers in this video, and I'm going to play the audio of it. But there's 3 troopers there, and I could say like whatever, but these are guys that like I would like to meet on their day off and just explain to them how to relax. And if they need to beat on a human being, I'm glad to jump in on this one because these are the problem. And Meg's words were, this is the exact thing that people are talking about with law enforcement. And the way this guy talks to this driver is on camera, on the driver's camera, no less, it's an example of like how terrible people are. And there's these other 2 troopers standing in the background doing nothing. And the only thing, like they're saying they smell marijuana, which that's not a thing. That's not ever a thing, particularly in the age of hemp. It's not a thing. And it doesn't matter if he had marijuana. You know what? Then just get over it and move on. That's not a thing that you do. They drag him from his car. They enter his car. They're saying they have probable cause. They're saying all these things to the camera. But this is the type of person. Remove the badge, remove the gun, and if they were to interact with me the way they interact with this driver, I would probably use one of the people standing there not saying anything to do something terrible to the one who is mouthing off and have the other guy hold the camera. And I'm a very peaceful person, but these people and these type people, they really, really raise my hackles. So that's how I'm going to end this part of things for people. People need to hear this because I don't think they're going to hear it in mainstream media.
Can't do that, sir. This officer is trying to unlock my car. This officer is unlocking my car. They just illegally entered my car. And I'm being forcefully removed.
Take a look at me. I'm a fucking specimen right here, buddy.
Sir,
you have gotten on my last
My
nerve.
hands are up on camera.
All right?
I'm in no threat
You're
to
going to
these
get your
officers.
ass whooped in front of fucking
My
Lord
hands-
and all creation.
My
I'm going to
hands are
give you one more chance.
I'm being threatened.
You can bring that with you. I'll
I
let
am
you
being
film
threatened.
the whole thing.
I'm being threatened
No,
right now.
I'm giving you a
and I
chance.
am not doing anything.
I'm
I feel
giving
unsafe.
you a chance.
I feel unsafe. And I'm in no threat to these 3 officers. My hands are up. I am doing nothing wrong to provoke anybody or anything. Making sure this is all recorded. I've just been threatened by
You can take
a
your phone
lawful
with you.
officer. I have just been threatened by a law officer as 2 other officers stand by and say absolutely nothing. Willing to participate. My passenger door was open. My driver door was open. I have it on camera. He rolled my window down to do so.
I'm giving you to the count of 3.
Sir, this is all on camera. I am not
Sure,
resisting. I'm
that's
making
fine.
sure it is being known. I am not
Yeah.
resisting.
Okay.
My hands are up. One
Okay.
hand on this camera.
Well, come on,
My
then.
seatbelt is being arrested.
As long as your
Look at
hands
this.
are up, that's fine.
I'm not resisting.
As long as your hands are
I
up.
was unlawfully.
Okay, come on
Sir,
out.
please do not touch me, sir.
Keep your phone out.
Sir, please do not touch me.
See, that's where we're coming to a disagreement.
It's not about
I'm giving you to the count of 3. Don't do this.
Sir,
Don't do it.
I'm
Don't
not
do it,
touching
man.
this officer. It's
Don't
on
do
camera.
it.
My hand is by
Step
my
out of
head.
the car right
I'm
now.
being threatened.
Now you're
I'm being
under arrest.
threatened.
Now
I'm
you're
being
under arrest
threatened,
for
sir.
disobeying the
I
law
was
of an
being
officer.
disobeyed.
I'm
I
giving
was
you
unlawfully
to the count
detained.
of 3.
This officer has threatened me, and I'm
1,
making it known I am no threat to this
2.
officer. I've been threatened.
Watch the show,
My
folks.
life is in danger. My life is in danger.
How do you like that? How do you like that? Huh? Put your hands behind. Put your hands. Yes, you are. I'm not resisting. Yes, you are. No, I'm not. Put your hands behind. Get off me. My hands are behind my back, sir. My hands are behind my back. I am not resisting. Sir, please get off my neck. I'm not resisting. Get off my neck, sir. You are harming me. You are harming me. You are harming me, sir. You are harming me.
Maybe I did, maybe I didn't. Who cares? You know I won't admit it. If your girl has gotten it, she gotta scratch it. But I ain't no snitch, no, I ain't no snitch. Maybe I would, maybe I wouldn't. I swear either way, you'll never know it. Go ahead and ask, but I ain't talking. Cause I ain't no snitch, no, I ain't no snitch. I'm a klepto, not a psycho. Let's go. Prove it. Think that I'm a liar, then prove it. Think that I'm a thief, then do it. shouldn't. Nope. But you ain't my conscience, so screw it. If I feel like it, you know I gotta do it. You know I can't help it, you know I can't help it. Gold and silver give me weak knees. It ain't us around my neck unless I can't breathe. When you gonna let it, just stop asking me. Cause I ain't no snitch, I ain't no snitch. I'm a klepto, not a psycho. Prove it, think that I'm a liar, then prove it. Think that I'm a thief, then do it. Go ahead, call the Scully, go ahead, call the Scully. You ain't finding nothing on me, go prove it. Go ahead, check my phone, yeah, do it. Check the skellies in my closet, go through it. Go ahead, call the Scully, go ahead, call the Scully. You ain't finding nothing on me. Some call me a bandit, that they say it's a bad habit. But one thing that they can never say, I'll be is red-handed. Some call it a blessing, others say that it's a curse. You can tell me which is which, I think the line's a little blurred. How could you accuse me? I'm just a lady. I've never done a thing wrong in my life. How could you blame me, little old me? Do you see any deceit in my eyes? Would I lie? I'm a klepto, not a psycho. Prove it. Think that I'm a liar, then prove it. Think that I'm a thief, then do it. Go ahead, call the Scully, go ahead, call the Scully. You ain't finding nothing on me, go prove it. Go ahead, check my phone, yeah, do it. Check the skellies in my closet, go through it. Go ahead, call the Scully, go ahead, call the Scully. You ain't finding nothing on me. Some call me a bandit, that they say it's a bad habit. But one thing that they can never say, I'll be is red-handed. Some call it a blessing, others say that it's a curse. You can tell me which is which, I think the line's a little blurred. I'm a klepto, not a psycho.